Listen up, get ready, I'm not gonna take no more. There's a revolution, a revelation going on in my soul. Buckle up, get ready, we're not gonna sit back.
Okay.
Welcome back to Live from the Heartland for the week of October 3rd. And I am still Michael James in Chicago's very blue 49th Ward. And it brings me a lot of pleasure to bring on my next guest. I was in Cuba back around 1989 or 1990. And I was there on a baseball and music tour with journalists, and we had traveled around the island a bit. And we were at the National Auditorium. I'm not sure if that's the correct name. And a fellow who came to be known when he lived in Chicago later as El Cubano said, you should go see Pablo Menendez and the band Mezcla. And I was too late to this outdoor location a few days later where they had played, but I met Pablo. And back in the days of the Heartland Cafe, I was honored to have brought the Cuban band led by Pablo Menendez, Mezcla, to Chicago. And we did it during various Democratic presidencies. We couldn't bring them in during Bush, but some of the regular listeners to the show will remember Mezcla and the wonderful times we had with them. Recently, I got an email from a woman named Maureen Gosling announcing the showing of a film about Pablo's mother, Barbara Dane. And that film is being shown in Chicago on Sunday the 5th. I'll give you the details at the end down at the University of Chicago. And I got a hold of Pablo, who happens to be in Italy at the moment, showing the film as we record this. So hello to you, Pablo Menendez, and tell us what you're doing in Italy.
Okay, well, buenas noches a todo el mundo. Yo no sé quién ve esto, pero de todas formas, pienso que es muy bueno que vean todo lo que vamos a decir es algo que no vas a ver en ningún otro lado. This is the only place you're going to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. I mean, Pablo's mouth. Anyway, we did a thing in Havana with some blues musicians from Rome, Italy, that came to show their solidarity. We did a little concert there together. And they invited me to a blues festival here in Rome. And so it turns out that they didn't have enough money for the whole band to come on. I had come on my own. And I decided, well, since I'd played with them in Havana, they could play with them here. And we got together, and it sounds really great. So we're playing a blues festival. And then also some friends of many years back from friends of my mother, Barbara Dane, decided that, you know, I should continue a kind of a tradition that I've been doing since my mother passed, of doing a tribute concert to Barbara Dane. And it turns out that we said, well, you know, besides you, let me see, you know, local people. Turns out that there's just an amazing amount of people here that really have Barbara Dane as one of the cultural icons of, you know, the true culture of the United States. I think, you know, like the United States, she should be a household name. And one of the reasons for seeing this film is that you can see about why she isn't. But I was just telling the audience here that the last time I was with her on her birthday, visiting from Cuba, I was visiting her in Oakland, and it was on her birthday. So I turned on the TV and watched a little bit of Democracy Now! Amy Goodman was starting off the day by saying, today is the birthday of one of the great artists of the United States of all times, Barbara Dane. And for me, this is, you know, it kind of impacted me because I've known her all my life. She was my mother. So, you know, I knew that she was great. She was one of the first white me at some of the downtown clubs, but she used to go after she would do her show with a backup band that was like Memphis Slim and Willie Dixon. And then she would go and sit in with the Muddy Waters band, and Muddy would sit at the bar and say, hey, you go and take over the show. And he would watch her sing. So I'm talking about, in the late 50s, early 60s, it's very unusual because most white people didn't know that blues existed. So that's, one of the things that ties her to Chicago and things like that. She was also she was the first public person from the United States to defy the State Department ban on travel to Cuba. So in that sense, sometimes I heard somebody say she was the Rosa Parks of going to Cuba because she didn't know if, when she got back to the United States was J. Edgar Hoover, but going to be waiting for her at the airport with handcuffs. But the United States was very, very tied up at the moment because there was rebellions happening in a lot of the major cities of the United States. And there was also a huge, almost unanimous opposition to the U.S. involvement or invasion in the Southeast Asia area around the country of Vietnam. And, excuse me, but I refuse to say the war in Vietnam, because if there's a war, you have to have two people that are fighting each other. And no Vietnamese threw a rock at the United States ever. They were defending their country from a U.S. invasion. And together with the people of the United States, they were able to be victorious once again after beating the French, after beating the Japanese, and then they beat in U.S. imperialism too, together with the people of the United States who also fought against that imperialist invasion. But anyway, Barbara was the first public person to defy the State Department travel, and she became a symbol of the friendship between the people of Cuba and the people of the United States. And one of the things that she did was to look at the situation of young people in Cuba and the young people in the United States. Everybody in the world knew what was happening in the United States because young people there were all excited about trying to change the world. So they grew their hair long and did everything try to be not as the 1950s USA was, as possible, to try to, fight against racism, to fight against war. And, but a lot of it was, like growing your hair long or smoking marijuana or something like that, kind of like not changing the world that much. But when she saw the way youth in Cuba were actually changing the world, changing the country and changing the world, then she said, well, this would be a great place for my 14-year-old boy to come for a minute. And so the idea was I was going to be in Cuba for a year studying music. I was really excited about that because I always wanted to be a musician. I always wanted to study music, but we didn't have, any way to get into a conservatory or anything in the United States. So going to Cuba to study music, hey, that, I knew that was something nobody else in my generation was going to be doing. I mean, like I say,
you went to Cuba and you never came back except to play music.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I went for a year. And my father gave me some very good advice. He said, people from the United States sometimes go to a different country and they say, oh, why don't you do things the way we do it in the United States? And he said, you should just keep your mouth shut. This is a small country with very nationalistic feelings and sentiments, and they just want a revolution and things. So just try to figure out what makes them tick, what works for Cubans. So that's what I did the first year. At the end of that first year, I asked my mom, could I stay a little bit longer? And I guess, yeah, it's kind of like growing on me. I've been there for almost 60 years now, right? So...
Hey, Pablo, let me jump in here. And we were talking about your mother and how she should have been a household name, but wasn't necessarily so.
And that the reason that you can find out more about this is to see this film, The 9 Lives of Barbara Dane, in Chicago. It's not online. You can't get it on Netflix. So you got to go down to, where is it going to be?
It's going to be at the Logan Center. Blues at Logan presents The 9 Lives of Barbara Dane. It's a screening with a performance by Maggie Brown, Oscar Brown Jr.'s daughter. And it's co-presented by the Hot House, Protesta Productions, etc. And I don't have the address of that, the Logan Center, but it's at the University of Chicago. And it starts at 3 o'clock on Sunday, the 5th.
Sunday the 5th at 3 o'clock. Be there or be square.
It's pretty filled up. I did see, you can go online and find it. But one of the things your mother said that she had a big mouth on race. And that was one of the reasons that whether it was with Joe Glazer or whether it was with Albert Grossman. She didn't really go for the big time. She had a family and she was very political. And
Yeah.
why don't we go back to Detroit, where she grew up as a kid, and she talks about in the movie how during the Works Progress Administration, there were a number of black workers outside her father's pharmacy, and one of them came in for a Coke.
And she was working as a waitress, like behind the counter there, right?
Yeah, and she gave him the Coke and then got chewed out by her dad, who at that time was fearful of losing business if he let black people in his pharmacy.
Yeah.
So your mom evolves from there. She becomes a folk singer, and then she becomes a jazz singer. She becomes a blues singer. She almost goes to Europe with Louis Armstrong. She plays with Louis Armstrong. She plays with, you name it, she played with them.
I kind of like almost say it the other way around. Somebody the other day said, "Oh yeah, she played with Bob Dylan." I said, "No. Bob Dylan was an unknown, a complete unknown, like the movie, and he was going up to try to, pitch songs to her and jam with her and things like that. He wanted to be close to her, and that's the thing. Like almost everybody that's anybody right now, knew right away when they saw Barbara Dane what was going on from a very, very young age. She was already like, just a groundbreaking and major artist that defined various different styles of music in the United States. This is something that I didn't really realize until I had to give a talk on Barbara Dane. There was a ceremony a couple of years back when the president of Cuba gave her the Medal of Friendship with Cuba. And she was not able to travel, so I had to be there on this panel. And so I said, well, the other people are writers and intellectuals, and I'm the only musician on the panel. So let me talk about Barbara Dane, the singer. And, I played with my mom in every imaginable way, standing on the street corner in Chicago, campaigning for Harold Washington with just our, stomping our feet and clapping our hands, all the way to... in Chicago, playing at the Checkerboard Lounge when it was Buddy Guy's Club down on the South Side, not downtown, right? Then I've been at major festivals around the world with a big jazz band or on TV programs in Europe or in Asia and Latin America, all over the world, with her. So I thought I knew her as a singer. And when I had to give a talk on her and say, "Oh, okay, let me find different examples of her singing," I was just blown away, because she really did practically define various different genres of music in the United States. And you don't think about this too much until you see this film and realize that all the people that you know about were people that were kind of modeling themselves on following this incredible artist. And so when Amy, Goodman said, one of the great artists of the United States of all times, this really is something that is true. And we've all been brainwashed by Hollywood into thinking that other people are really important. I'm talking about you and me and everybody watching this need to know about this artist because it is one of the great artists of the United States of all times and the world.
She was something else. And one of the things in there is when she brought the Chambers Brothers to the Newport Jazz Festival.
Folk festival. And, it was. She found them singing in a church in L.A. and got them a gig at the Ash Grove, which was the folk club in Los Angeles that was doing this thing of mixing all of the different elements of folk culture of the United States and things. And it was an incredible club where she was like the headliner at the time, and so she got them a gig there. And when she talked to Pete Seeger to get them on the Newport Folk Festival. From there, then Bob Dylan started to record with them, and they took off. And months later, they were one of the headliners of the Summer of Soul, which just recently people found out about. Happening almost coincidentally with Woodstock. So everybody knew about Woodstock. People didn't know about the Harlem Summer of Soul, and they were like one of the major bands there, and in a question of months. So they have maintained a friendship with them to this day. And the one surviving member of the band is, we performed together around the 90th birthday where Barbara did a tour all over. We'd played all over, and I've traveled from Cuba. Every one of those concerts played with her, and the surviving Chambers brothers came and sang with her a lot. And the last one standing is Willie Chambers, is right now in the process of making an album with my son, and I'm going to be playing on that one too. So
Nice.
yeah, Chambers brothers, part of the
Well,
the
your
family
son
circle.
is a hotshot musician, and no
Yeah,
longer they
yeah.
refer to him as the son of Pablo Menendez. They refer to say, oh, you're his father, but he's the big guy.
Yeah, yeah, I'm famous in Cuba right now because I'm el padre de Osamu. Osamu, yeah.
Is
Well,
he
he's
living in Cuba now, or is he in Mexico still?
no, his wife some years back got a proposition to do be the lead person on two different TV shows in Miami. So they relocated to Miami for a while, but he's back and forth from Cuba all the time. In fact, he's one of the first artists from Cuba to be able to do live TV in Cuba on Friday night and live TV in Miami on a Saturday night, and has been breaking down a lot of the artificial barriers that the United States and some of the Cuban community there in Miami set up. Because, like I have a song that says, we are not enemies, we're neighbors and friends, and there should be no problem. And if you wanted to go back to normal, you got to go past Obama and think about when my grandfather from Detroit went down to Cuba. So that would be normal, right? And you were asking, can I still go to Cuba through Houston? I don't like to go to Miami. United, I think, is calling off their flights now for the time being. But there used to be a flight. There was actually one flight all the way to LA at one point during the Obama period, because Obama did loosen up a lot of the travel restrictions on the U.S. freedom to travel, to try to have them not go to Cuba because it'd be really dangerous to see all this stuff. Like imagine a place with free healthcare, free education. I mean, that's dangerous stuff, right?
Well, when I met you, I had flown from Miami to the Bahamas and then to Cuba.
Yeah, yeah.
And when I came back, my son and my mother, they were going to New York, and they just went through the line, and I was going back to Chicago from Miami, and they said, "Did you go anywhere else besides the Bahamas?" I said, "Yeah, I went to Havana." And they put me in another line, and the woman turned out to be pretty good. I said, "Do you get a lot of Americans going to Cuba?" She said, "Oh yeah, all the time. Old guys, fishermen." And then she said she was married to a Cuban, and they took my maracas and they took the beads out of them, but I got the maracas. But that was it. Let me ask you if you remember your mom ever talking about going to Mississippi, because she was down there. Bob Moses or Bob Paris, he had different names, but who was a real inspirational guy, one of my heroes from the civil rights days. Your mom talked about going from town to town and singing, and I think Pete Seeger was there. What do you remember about that, Pablo?
A lot of artists went to support the registering black voters in Mississippi. And, the Hollywood version of this is kind of like all jolly, but it's actually something that was a life-threatening, dangerous thing to do, because there was still a whole lot of like armed terrorist organization going around with sheets over their head in the nighttime that would shoot at you and put bombs in the church or something like that. It was very dangerous work. But she was down there in 63. She had all the kids, and we were all farmed out to different friends and things for the summer, and then she went down and spent the summer there. So that's what she was doing in 63. That's kind of like her whole life was like that. And this all started when, in Detroit, when she started to be involved in the different things, at the time there was a lot of union organizing going on. And so she would sing at the factory gates and, at picket lines, and the fight to desegregate the downtown. A lot of all of this is in the movies, because, like I say, the movie is called The 9 Lives of Barbara Dane.
I wanted to ask you a little bit was we saw a lot of musicians be very supportive of the civil rights struggle, and one of the things in the movie your mother talked talks about is when she, on behalf of the Cubans, invited a lot of musicians to come to Cuba, and then none of them did. And they cited their fear of losing their passport.
Everybody was very much afraid at the time. Like I say, she was like the first person to actually defy the state ban on travel there, and nobody knew what was going to happen. So it was like, going off to the end of the world is going to be flat and you're going to fall off or something like that. So after that, in '68, there was a big SDS delegation, people started to go down with the Venceremos Brigade, and everybody would go down, a whole group of people that they thought, well, in masses, we got, less possibility to all be thrown in jail. And then people started going more and more and more and more and more and more. And like I've met some of the, important artists from all different fields, the United States, film people, movie people, important artists, musicians. And it's up to a point. I mean, right now in Cuba, one of the best jazz festivals in the world is held every January, and there's a lot of people from. It's one of the most diverse jazz festivals in the world. You get people from all over the world, but also you get, important artists from the United States, like Orbit Davis from Chicago, for example, has been down a couple of times. Arturo Ofarria goes down, like he's been down, I think about 16 times in a row. Like he just started to go and go and go and go every year. And a lot of, both Cuban artists that live in the United States and artists from around the world. It's like I say, diverse, because you get people from Europe, you get people from Africa, you get people from Latin America, you get people from Asia, you get people from the United States also. But it's a jazz festival, Havana Jazz Plaza Festival in January. And there's a lot of people. In fact, right now there's a group of people in Chicago organizing a tour to go down there, and they can get you down there legally and make sure you don't get into any trouble. So talk to Marguerite at the Hot House, Chicago. She'll hook you up.
Yeah, Marguerite's a regular on this show. We usually promote her stuff. We got a couple of minutes left. Let me ask you, Pablo, what you think the role of musicians should be in this time of the Trump stepping on the rights of people right and left throughout the states and beyond?
Well, I could say a few things. Let me see. Let me think about this a minute.
We only got a minute or two.
Right. Well, this world is really going crazy. I mean, in a certain sense, if you think about it, there's a couple of things that I want to say. The last time fascism, was going to try to take over the world with a certain guy with a mustache in Germany, something like 27 million Soviets saved the day for us, plus a united front against fascism. So they beat the fascist and, stopped fascism in Italy and Japan and in Germany and from taking over the world. Right now, we don't have a Soviet Union. We don't have anybody willing to put down 27 million lives to stop fascism. But there is more and more a united front against fascism. And right now tonight, there's probably going to be a good example of that, of the flotilla of boats of activists from around the world going towards Gaza to try to stop the worst enemy of Israel, this war criminal, Netanyahu, and to stop the genocide going on there and to stop the fascism that's going on with the support of the U.S. fascism that is, sending all of the bombs and all of the arms around the world. And this craziness just has to be stopped by people. And fighting against war, fighting for peace is still the same main thing that any artist should do. Any artist in any genre, that's all you should be doing right now, not selling yourself. They got prostitutes to do that. They do a more honest job, probably. And any artist that's not right now fighting for peace and fighting against war and fighting against fascism, we don't need to pay attention to them.
Right on. Hey, thank you, Pablo.
I mean, I'm just talking this way because I'm on.
No, I love it. I like it, and it's.
I'm on Live from the Heartland. And I know that people listening to Heartland already. He says, I don't want to preach to the choir.
People need to stand up. And let me tell everybody once again, everybody go see the movie. Blues and Logan presents The 9 Lives of Barbara Dane. It's a film screening with a performance by Maggie Brown and others on a panel. It's at the Logan Center, which is at 915 East 60th Street. Starts at 3 o'clock. And I want to thank you for coming on, Pablo.